Yeah, what we're going to do is I'll just kind of go over the agenda. We'll kind of talk about just like the clear aligner market in general. What are some of the market trends? We'll talk a little bit about the manufacturing process because I mean it's really important. We'll talk about some aligner basics like materials, preferences on how you can design and do some different things, how we get people started with aligners. We'll really get into the workflow with 3Shape and FullContour and what your options are there. Michelle does an amazing job really taking it a whole level deeper than we do. And then sales best practices like what Donnie was talking about there. So, I think everybody, clear aligners has been like a huge subject of the market. It's fast growing. Everybody who has the ability to get in is getting into this market. So how big is the market? It's estimated, now this is a little bit of older data here, but it was estimated that it was going to be about a $5 billion market, in 2020 worldwide. In North America, around $3 billion. It might be bigger than that. I think things are a little strange right now with COVID, so you never know what the reality is. And it is expected to grow almost 30% by, I think, 2028, which is pretty incredible, between that. And it could grow faster. And we're seeing really fast growth with, some of the adolescent stuff now, and teenagers and what the preference is in order to get people straighter teeth, and fix malocclusion. You can kind of see how this kind of breaks down, traditional brackets versus aligners, and it's still dominated by brackets, and I think most people, if you were to ask most people, how do you want to straighten your teeth? How would you like to do treatment? Most people would actually say they'd like to do it with clear aligners. I think most orthodontists, or many orthodontists would still like to argue that brackets is the best way, and that's what they know. But I mean, every time we, work with our team of engineers and talk with the software guys and the material engineers, there's just more and more and more things you can do with clear aligner trays and treatments. So I think we're going to see so many more things get solved, and then just so many more people just adopt what you can already do. Just accept that it's good treatment. So there's a ton of upside, for this market to grow. Right? It's still a lot of brackets. And then when you look at how this breaks down between teens and adults and how many teens you see get into traditional braces, and you'll start seeing them getting into a lot more clear aligners. It's happening right now already, right? And there's different requirements to do that, and we can dig in a little bit. But tons of upside, right? And when you really look at like what's driving restorative dentistry and cosmetic dentistry, and like what are the most common prevalent dental diseases, right? Caries, tooth decay, we all know that. Most of us are crown and bridge people, or maybe we're removable technicians and we're waiting for everything to fall out. Periodontal disease, right? 42%. Malocclusion, not straight teeth, right? 20% of the population, 60% of the global population. That's a lot, right? So there's plenty of people out there who, I mean, almost everybody needs some sort of, tooth movement. They really do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times with working with a dentist, they said, well, if we really want to do a good job with this patient, we'll move teeth before we do veneers. But most people let's just do veneers, right? And I think now with clear aligners, there's more opportunities to do combo things, right? It's kind of interesting with the COVID impact, U.S. dental spending was down 38% in 2020, yet the clear aligner market still grew 5.3%. So the fact that it had strong growth when everybody else wasn't spending money, I thought was really, really interesting, right? And there's a lot of things that play into that. And as you guys know, a lot of the major companies, everybody who can is jumping into this market. Pretty much everybody we know who sells a variety of all these dental materials, whether it's Dent Supply or 3M or Henry Schein, Clear Correct, which is now Straumann, Smile Direct Club. There's a lot of big players getting into this, and more people that you've never heard of are getting into this, right? So there's a lot out there, and everyone's growing. There's room for an awful lot of players here. Right? And some of them aren't making it, right? And I think, different models are working out differently. Our model is working out very nicely, and I think, it's very interesting. I think the dental laboratory has one of the best relationship with their clinicians and with their doctors, and most the labs that we talk to that reach out to their doctors and said, hey, would you be interested in doing clear aligners with me? Most of them say yes, and I think they just need to have a good system and a good reason, and we have to get confident as laboratory owners and people in our industry dealing with GPs on just how do we give them clear aligner treatment, because I think they would all like to be working with a partner that they trust, and not necessarily a giant company that they don't have the same kind of relationship with. So a lot of different things happening out there, and there's some interesting trends, right? So in the beginning, I'd say your average clear aligner treatment, like with an orthodontist, was a huge amount of trays, right? Like, maybe 20 to 30 stages, 40 to 60 trays, right? And as people started doing more, just going for the aesthetic stuff, which is really where the lion's share is. You look at everybody who's, saying, yeah, I just want to straighten my front teeth or something like that, that's a lot less, right? And so now we're seeing, some of these companies that were advertising this big package, now they're all advertising a faster, smaller, more focused package on aesthetic dentistry. And so when you look at, what are the GPs probably going to do? What are our customers going to do? Not your hardcore orthodontist, but just your average everyday GP or aesthetic dentist. It's going to be the smaller stuff. So, you look at, some of these guys saying, hey, we can do 66 fewer clear aligners. We're going to do a set of 6, which might be 12 weeks of treatment. Or we're going to do 10, which might be 20 weeks of a treatment, depending on how they're moving things. So we're seeing the amount of trays get smaller, and some of these treatments get more focused, right? Turnaround times are also getting faster, to where when we first got into this, we were hearing that the big guys out there, ClearCorrect, Invisalign, whoever, was turning stuff in anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, right? And now everybody's trying to hit 5 to 10 days, right? And so manufacturing's getting faster. People want these things, want them faster. So, and everybody's seen a suck down machine, right? And everybody thinks clear aligners is like the super simple thing to manufacture, right? And I don't know how many people have ever tried to actually do a whole bunch in their lab. A single clear aligner is probably the simple thing I've ever made. Building a giant manufacturing floor to handle thousands and thousands of clear aligners and not get anything mixed up and make sure that it's done right, and all the right things flow into the right packages and it all follows my FDA stuff, is the most complicated thing we've ever done. And we milk custom abutments and do implants and all kinds of other stuff. And clear aligners manufacturing is by far more complicated, because you've got everything that we typically do in a dental lab, but now it's all in one process. Milling, printing, thermoforming, laser marking, all this kind of stuff is all wrapped up into one thing. And now I got to keep, 30 things straight and in the correct order. Right, so it's not just as simple as I printed something and did a suck down. That's the easy part, right? There's all these other crazy processes, and there's a heavy duty amount of FDA regulatory stuff and quality management that's involved with this. And the FDA has taken a pretty strong stance on this. So even though like a thermoforming material can have clearance, it doesn't mean that you're cleared to just now make aligners and do treatment with it, right? So everything's connected, including how you design and treatment plan and get a doctor to sign off on it, right? So there's these crazy processes that we have to deal with. Barcodes, laser marking. We have cameras that read everything and measure everything, and there's a lot going on there, right? So we've got a bonanza of acronyms: the DHF, the DMR, the EDHR, the ERP, and the WTF. Right? I mean, there's more, right? Every time I talk to our quality management people, I don't even know what they're talking about half the time, and then I have to have them tell me what it is, right? So a really robust IT infrastructure was key for us, right? We spent a year doing development with 3Shape and internal IT and other software companies to just be able to do this the right way, right? This is our clear aligner team. Right, so everyone kind of wonders, how much are you doing? And this is typically, we don't have videos of this online, and we've been pretty secretive of what we're doing, but we're doing a ton of aligners. And we've got 40 to 70 people probably in this photo. This is probably only 2 shifts. We got 3 shifts. We're running 24 hours right now. And when you have these big expensive carbons, these L1s, you don't want them sitting even for an hour or costing you money. So we're running 24 hours. And so you see in this photo, there's 3 on this end and 2 on that end. Each one of these can do around 1,000 models a day, right? So you can guess where our current capacities are within the, 4,000 to 5,000 aligners a day, area right now. And this is just the room that we do printing in, and there's a whole other room, and there's a bunch of stuff that I don't think I have on here. But this just gives you a little bit of idea. And to be successful in the long run and where the prices are going and the precise need for manufacturing, automation is going to be key, right? And so we've been setting ourselves up for a lot of future automation. And this is really going to be key with getting good, consistent clear aligners with how you manufacture these things, right? And you need a really robust IT infrastructure to be able to do these things, right? So what are the basics, right? What are the basics with clear aligners? Like what's involved when we do these cases, right? So there's obviously the impression or the intraoral scan, the image capture, right? And I'd say the majority of things are coming from intraoral scanners now, right? Which is good, but you can use conventional impressions. You can take an impression, digitize it, and get it right into that workflow. And then we got to know what is IPR, what is attachment, what's a band treatment, how do we get the cut lines, what is a cut line, what files are associated with that, what materials are we using, right? What about our packaging, right? So if we're going to compete with all the big guys out there, we got to have really good, professional, nice looking packaging that's, robust and approved. What's a refinement? What are retainers, right? These are all clear aligner lingo, and that's just really scratching the surface, right? And I think you'll see Michelle dive even deeper into that. Like she is on the phone like every day with doctors and labs trying to understand things about their clear aligner case. They do an excellent job there. And so we've learned so much, I'd say, in the last, what have we been doing this now, 2 years, right? We've learned a ton, So first, we could just talk about like how do we do this? Can we take a regular impression? Can we do this? Yeah, absolutely. So any intraoral scanner will do. We originally worked on and built the workflow with 3Shape, and it was fully integrated with Trios, right, and their treatment review workflow. And now all of a sudden you can do any type of model scan or scan an impression, and there's a way to get that into the workflow. And there's multiple workflow options depending on how you want to work, right? So both ways we can do that, right? So obviously we have to initiate a case, right? So different than filling out a lab slip is there has to be a digital RX that's filled out, so we know what are we trying to treat, where are we doing things, where are we not doing things, right? Then there's the treatment plan or the design, right? So we're taking a scan, we're initiating the case with some sort of, this is what I want, this is what I'm trying to treat, right? And then obviously that's going to go, and be designed. And then there has to be an approval and a way for the doctor to interact with that treatment plan before we're going to manufacture that, right? Then there's the entire manufacturing process, and of course delivery, in which we're delivering it directly to the laboratory, ready to go, package, the whole 9 yards. And I'll show you guys what that looks like. So FullContour and Argen have been working together for a long time. And we've had some big customers in common that required some really complex workflows. And so we built what we call the triangle workflow, which means if FullContour is your design arm or your initial entry point, that you can just submit a case to FullContour, they will design and directly send it to Argen. So there's not all this, I send it to them, they send it back to me, I have to log in with them, and then I got to log in with them, and I got to check this, and there's none of that happens, right? It all goes one way. So it's all like it's under one roof, right? So whether our design center is next door to our mills and our manufacturing, or all the way down in Costa Rica, it really makes no difference with the way that we've set up our workflow, right? Except people who are good at what they're doing, that's all they're doing, right? And so we really decided to focus this partnership on people really doing their strengths, right? So the doctor initiates, the lab gets the raw materials, whether it's the scans or the impression, right? And he has the RX, and that's submitted to FullContour. FullContour, does a design. That design is approved automatically, and there's a whole process there that Michelle will get into and show you guys how that works. And the minute the doctor clicks approve, it drops directly into Argen manufacturing, and we manufacture, and the entire status is able to be seen in multiple different portals depending on how you want to manage and track your case, right? You can be looking at it with FullContour, you can be looking at it Argen Link, or you can be looking at it on the treatment review platform, which is like 3Shape Communicate, and you can see everything happening all the way through, right? But that's the triangle workflow. It starts with you, it goes into FullContour, and it comes out of Argen, and it's all seamless, and you don't have to manage and move a bunch of files around all the time. It all happens automatically, and it's automated. What is IPR, right? So now we're getting into some of the lingo. IPR is interproximal reduction, and we've all seen or been into a doctor's office where maybe we're getting like a filling or something like that, and they bring out the diamond strip and they just create a little space in our contacts. Well, that's basically what they're doing with IPR, and IPR is something that'll be prescribed. So it's a doctor who does not mind creating a little space between the teeth in order to rotate the teeth or move the teeth together, or however you want to move the teeth. IPR is one of those things that's very common with clear aligners, and it will show up in a prescription or in a treatment plan that says, okay, you need to do IPR between 8 and 9 in order to get them straight and fix the midline, right? And it will just show up there, and he'll approve it or he'll won't approve it. Or he can say, hey, I don't want IPR on my case, right? So that's IPR, and there's lots of IPR tools that have predetermined thicknesses, and it's very simple for a doctor to do, and most GPs know what it is and know how to do it. And this is just showing different tools and how all that stuff works, right? Attachments. What are attachments? So there's a lot of different shapes for attachments. Some of them are necessary, some of them are not necessary. But attachments are basically just light cured pieces of resin that are put on the teeth, and it's used for leverage, right? And it might be when you really need to be more aggressive with moving a tooth. Obviously, if you're using attachments and not just the way the plastic wraps around the teeth, you can probably be more aggressive, right? And you can more easily rotate or extrude or push a tooth around when you have attachments. And the way that these things get put on is they're done with templates. So a template is like maybe the very first aligner. They'll fill it up with light cured resin, and they'll stick it in there, and they'll light cure it on there, and now the customer has these little buttons, basically, these little attachments on the teeth, and you can barely see them because they're tooth colored. And so when they're snapping things in and out, those attachments are being used for leverage, right? And sometimes they're put on in the very beginning. Most of the time they're on the very beginning. Sometimes, hey, we won't put it on till stage 7, right? And all that's in the treatment plan that the doctor does, right? And they're digitally designed and done all up front, so they actually show up on the printed model before we thermoform things, right? Band treatments. This is something we don't do right now, and it's done with more complex clear aligner cases. It's probably something we will do in the future. It's not that hard, but it's more complex, and the software has to account for it, and the doctor really has to know how this works and what they're doing, and I'd say that's more in the realm of the ortho and not so much the GPs, right? But band treatments is when you have little hooks and buttons, right? And we create little spaces on there, and that just allows for, more complex cases, right? Cut lines. So there's a lot of different ways that people like to trim clear aligners, right? And so you have the ability to create a preference and a profile so your clear aligners are the way you want your clear aligners, right? And there's lots of different reasons to have different cut lines, but some are straight, some are scalloped, some are in the middle, right? And there's different reasons and different philosophies based around that, right? And there's even some statistics out there that says, hey, if I have more plastic below the gum line and it's not so scalloped, that I actually have a more rigid material and that it actually moves teeth better. Other ones will tell you that the more painful it is and the more rigid it is, the less the patient complies. And so to have a more comfortable aligner, maybe that's more flexible, might actually end up with better results in the long run. So it all literally comes down to preference, right? I'd say things are trending more towards at the gingiva, cut lines these days, less straight. And some of them are straight, but at the gingiva, right? And it all depends on whether they want to scallop them or how they want to make them straight, right? There's a lot of information on that, and your doctor will probably have a preference, but what we've done is saying, hey, look, this is the way we do Argen Clear Aligners, this is the way we feel the best, and that's how our profiles will set up. And materials are huge. There are so many thermoforming materials out there, and they've been out there for a really, really long time. And there's a lot of them that that there's good properties about polyurethane and bad properties about polyurethane, and good properties about PTEG and bad properties about PTEG. And so how do we get the best of both worlds, right? So this was really, really important for us. Like with Argen, like the things that we do, one of the things that we're big into and that we have a lot of expertise on is material science. So we really focused on the material. And like I said, like patient compliance is a big deal, and having a comfortable aligner is a big deal, and having an aligner that doesn't have stress relaxation is a big deal. So what is stress relaxation? So, you know, you put something in, there's a lot of tension, right? And the teeth are moving, but at the same time, the plastic is relaxing. And if the plastic is relaxing too quickly, it's not going to move the teeth. And after just a few, you know, or after maybe a couple trays, it's not going to, the case isn't going to track well, right? So having something that has what we call continuous force retention, right, meaning that it continues to push on the teeth, it doesn't have stress relaxation, and has like a certain amount of elasticity to it, is very important. So what we're using is a triple layer material where it's got a polyurethane elastomeric material in between. So polyurethane is very elastic, right, and it doesn't have a lot of stress relaxation. But polyurethane by itself is like a little different colored, can discolor, right, and is not as stain resistant. But then when you have some of these hybrid materials on the outside really thin, you become incredibly stain resistant. You actually add a little bit of rigidity, but you don't have the stress relaxation because you have the elastomeric layer in the middle. So this is the material that we're using, and this is, you know, as a lot of these companies that have evolved, Invisalign was the first one to come out with something called Smart Track, and that was years and years ago, and the materials have evolved since then, right? So we're lucky we're standing on the shoulders of people who already figured some stuff out, and things have gotten better. And then when you're doing a case, you're paying for three things, and you're probably breaking down, you know, the cost of your treatments, you know, within three things. And really, there's also refinements, you know, which I'll talk about as well. But there's the treatment plan, right? And the treatment plan is a significant part of it. Designing these things is not easy, and it takes time to move the teeth and iterate, you know, back and forth. There's the clear aligners themselves, and then a lot of people will order a set of retainers with the clear aligners. A lot of people, once you've moved teeth, now you got to keep them there, right? So retention is a big opportunity, right? And there's people are charging an arm and a leg out there just for retainers. And so there's an awesome opportunity to make good money on the retainers and have residual, right? So every 6 months to a year, people need new retainers. Like they'll last 2 years, but we see people, they're either the dog ate the retainer or they're losing the retainer. And so they need them like every 3 to 6 months, it seems like right now, right? Which is great. And then you've got refinements. What are refinements, right? Well, in the crown and bridge world, if for some reason the doctor calls you about a case you did like 4 months ago, you're thinking, oh God, remake. That's not how ortho works, right? Refinements is part of the process. And so what's a refinement? Like, let's just say you go through 12 movements, right? And, you know, you had a gap, and now as you get towards the end of that movement, you're going, wow, everything's straight, but man, there's still a little bit of diastema right there. 2 more trays and I can close that up. That would be a refinement, right? And that's very common. And I think like 25 to 30% of cases, you know, maybe more, right, need a refinement. I think the more we do, the more we find out. But I think, what was Invisalign's number that they used to give out? Yeah, 50% might need a refinement. And most people are, like, you have to build that in, and they build that into their packages. Michael will get into that. But that's just something that happens with ortho, right? And so, you know, hey, kids were supposed to get their brackets out, you know, in July, and it turns out the doctor wants to crank on them for another couple months just to make sure that they stay where they're supposed to stay, right? Same thing happens, right? So it's just part of the process. It's not a remake. It's not a failure. That's how the process goes. And really, it's an opportunity to sell more expensive packages or have residual income as things shape out with that. You know, and then I think it's really important, you know, like, so what is a treatment plan, right? You know, so one is the design, like, hey, we're going to move the teeth. That's going to generate the files that we're going to manufacture with. But then you got to have something that says, hey, doc, here's the plan. We're putting attachments on these teeth. We're doing interproximals here. And so every time you get a proposal, the doctor gets a proposal, there's an entire, you know, RX that basically gets built out and tells you where all that stuff is, right? It can be printed out go with the cases, right? The doctor could access that in the files and always go, okay, wow, yeah, I'm putting on attachments here, and oh, we moved the tooth 0.2 millimeters, at this stage, right? And it really tells you all those things. And Michelle will go deep into that because that's really the core of what they do, is that experience for the doctor, right? But this, what you're looking at right here, this is 3Shape's, this is their treatment plan, treatment approval, right? And basically, like, it automates everything. You can look at everything, but Michelle will show you guys that. Here's our packaging, right? So when we do clear aligners for you, everything comes completely packaged. All the regulatory is done. We have the UDI, so these barcodes right there, unique device identifier. That's a requirement by FDA that you have to have it on there. So everything is tracked. Everything is professionally packaged. This is ready to go for you guys. Right? Now, this is the Argen packaging. We have some other options, right? So we've done what we call, there's 3 levels really, but we talk about 2. There's the Argen brand, right? Which we're starting to build a lot of momentum around that, and there's value there. Or there's white label, meaning that you can have, XYZ lab, on the packaging, right? There'll still be some language that said it was manufactured at Argen, right? But we've de-emphasized our brand, and your laboratory brand, your product brand, is what's center focused in that. There's always a sticker that prints on the outside of the box, and it'll usually say, hey, this is for patient so-and-so, doctor so-and-so by this lab. There's a barcode that we scan to make sure that everything makes it on it. So there's all these processes that make sure the right things get into these things, right? And then there's the care kit, and the care kit has this slick little box so they can carry around. So once they rip open their package, they need something to carry their aligner in, right? A little removable tool, and the patient guide, right? So that comes in with the kit. So they've got a really nice experience, with a nice box. So this is kind of what some of the white label stuff looks like. ACA lab, that's my lab, awesome clear aligner lab, right? That's what I made up for marketing. Now they have much better white label packaging out there. I should have a picture of that in there because my marketing skills are not so great. And then this is the white label baggie. So it's just a clear baggie. It's got the stage number on there. It has all the same regulatory stuff, but you notice like it's just clear. There's not a bunch of Argen stuff on there. The only thing back here that says Argen is, manufactured at the Argen Corporation with a little manufacturing symbol and this caution statement that has to be on there, right? So this is still within our packaging for the FDA approval and all that kind of stuff, right? And so this is kind of what it looks like. And it looks a little confusing right there, but it actually looks really nice when you look at it in your hands. And I definitely go take a look at it out there, when you have a chance. And then, of course, everything's laser marked, right? And this is how you keep track. This is how the patient makes sure that he's putting in the right stage at the right time, in case he's mixed up some of his stuff. But this is basically a case identifier, right? And then that's a 04L, which stands for stage 4 lower, right? And then you'll have a 04U, which will be stage 4 upper, right? And that's how we track that stuff, right? And we actually have cameras and sophisticated equipment that actually read that. And so, for example, when we're taking our upper stage 1 and lower stage 1, and we're about to have our auto bagger, print a bag and do that, if we scan the wrong upper with the wrong lower, we can't even put it in the bag. Our automatic bagger stops. It tells us that we don't have a match, and it makes sure that we, now look at something, track it down, and make sure the right things get into the bag. So unless it scans, that bagger won't present itself. We can't get it into the bag. So we've got a lot of like that IT infrastructure that I was talking about, where we're reading barcodes, using cameras, measuring arches, things like that. All that's happening to make sure that the right stuff gets in the right box and that nothing's out of whack. Because if you get the wrong stage, in a customer's mouth, they're going to either not move teeth, get them off track, or move teeth in the wrong direction, right? And like I said, retainers is a big opportunity. I think Michael will talk about it. We got to change this slide. So that's actually... We're seeing people change them out every 3 to 6 months, but you can wear them like a year, 2 years, right? We use a thicker, more robust material for our retainers, right? But big opportunities for the retention. A lot of people need retention, right? And like I said, refinements, and like I said, this is just part of dentistry, right? And so now when you guys, if you guys just got to order a couple trays for refinements, we've got different packaging, that it could come in, so you're not getting the whole giant package, or if you want the whole giant package, you can get it. But like I said, refinements is just part of the process and part of something that you're going to do. And Michael will get into it, but people either build it into their price or they say, hey, if you do refinements, it's this amount of money. There's so many ways to sell it that Michael will get in there just to educate your doctor. And our onboarding process is, we hold your hand all the way through. We will get you guys set up on the accounts, but you have to set up an Argen digital account. You got to set up a 3Shape Communicate account, and you need a FullContour account as well, right? And there's a whole process that does that. And there's some really cool things that you can do. So if you wanted to create like a little icon in your doctor's 3Shape Communicate Trios, where it's like you've got ABC aligner brand, by Argen Clear Aligners or something like that, they can click that and say, this is what I want to do, right? So you're going to have a separate Communicate account for aligners than you do for everything else, and that's to enable that treatment review workflow that allows doctors to, kick things back and forth. And obviously there's the how you do that with FullContour as well, right? So this is something that we walk you through. It's very simple. We basically do it for you, right? But it's super simple. And then we have a ton of onboarding videos, right, that actually allow you to, hey, I want to see how that works again. And we've created all these videos that will walk you through workflows and show you how to, review and approve a case, and how do I set up another, if you got to help a doctor set up another, Communicate account. This could be a doctor that doesn't have a Trios, by the way, and you could still set up a Communicate account for them and still have them submit that thing that way, or they can submit it directly through you, so it can go through FullContour, right? And we'll show you that. But we've got videos for all that stuff, which is really, really cool. And I think this is where I'm going to hand it over to Michelle, right? And we're going to talk about like a little more details in the triangle workflow and how FullContour does their thing.
All right, so my name is Michelle Shippy. I work for FullContour by 3Shape. So we are a 3Shape company. We are their design services team. So I'm going to go through all the clear aligner design stuff today. And a huge thank you to Argen for inviting me to talk today. I'm really excited. So, all right, so FullContour clear aligner solution. So all we do is design. We don't do any manufacturing of any physical products. That is Argen's expertise. We just do the design. So I'm going to go through the full range of treatment planning. It's a fast time, so it's convenient for your doctors. We're going to go through the doctor approval app, which Jeff had mentioned, treatment review, and the FullContour platform. I'll demystify that because it's a little bit confusing. And then we'll go through just some of the other, like he talked about trim lines and laser marking and all of that. So why should labs offer clear aligners? Well, first, Jeff went through the market need. It's like a $3 billion market here in the US, so it's growing rapidly. I saw a market report recently that said something like 60% of GPs are getting asked about clear aligners from their patients, which is quite impressive. And so you have what we reference as the Zoom effect. Patients are looking at themselves on Zoom going, I don't like my centrals or whatever, and they just want a small tweak. And so they go to their GP and say, hey, I heard about clear aligners. Is that something that you do? And so labs are getting asked more and more by their GPs, hey, do you guys do clear aligners? I don't want to spend all this money with some of the big players. So we just see this huge growing market, and you guys have such a good opportunity to get in right now while it's booming. And then there's this turnkey solution, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can plug and play. You could go home on Monday and start offering clear aligners. So you use a design service like FullContour, Argen for manufacturing. It comes with the packaging. It's already FDA approved. You don't have to go hire, buy equipment, all of those things. You could call your doc and say, hey doc, I can do clear aligners now, and it's super simple. It's profitable. So depending on how large the case is, there's going to be a range in fees that you charge your doctor, but most labs make between $200 and $400 per case. So it can be very, very profitable to add this new line item to your business. So I'm going to just briefly go through the clear aligner workflow. I don't want to bore you guys too much on the details, but you need a scan, so that can be an intraoral scan or an impression. I'll caution you that impressions can be challenging. You get things like imperfections, and then when you do a suck down on the model, you're going to have a loose fitting aligner, which doesn't track well. So intraoral scans are definitely the way to go. They're more consistent. You're going to get a nicer fit, and the workflow is a little bit easier. So we have the nice integration with Trios and treatment review, but as Jeff said, it can be an iTero scan, a Medit scan. They can all enter into the workflow. It doesn't matter. Then you're going to submit the case. You know what? Sorry, back up a little bit. So you also need patient photos and a prescription form. So the doctor needs to give a digital RX that says, here's what I want to do with this patient. Here's what the patient is looking for. They want to close the diastema, whatever it is. Because otherwise, we're kind of driving blind. We don't know if we can do attachments, if we can do IPR. Some doctors don't like those things. So digital prescription form is necessary along with patient photos. Okay, so you submit the case, we do the design in 72 hours or less. We give it back to you either on the treatment review portal or on the FullContour portal. It's gonna come with the 3D viewer. It comes with a whole bunch of different buttons, like you can change the background color and turn attachments on and off. It comes with a movement report, which is what Jeff alluded to, where it's basically us giving a plan back to the doctor saying, hey, these teeth need attachments, these teeth need interproximal reduction. Otherwise, if a doctor's just looking at a 3D viewer, you can see attachments, but you can't see IPR. So we have to give a report that can be printed and delivered with the aligners, or the doctor can print it and save it with his records. Redesigns are very common. So if you show a clear aligner case to 2 doctors, you get 3 opinions. It's just the nature of, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So we do a setup and a doctor might say, oh, I want to tweak this, I want to change that. So you kind of go through this redesign loop, and then once doctor is happy with the design, they can click approve, at which point goes to Argen directly. So you guys don't have to download and upload to Argen Link. As soon as it hits Argen Link, you can see your case there, and it's very easy to track. Okay, so I want to talk about the types of cases you should be taking on because it's very, very important. We're looking at mild to moderate aesthetic cases. So most of them are about 28 trays total, so 14 for the upper, 14 for the lower. We are not trying to take on those 150 stage cases. That's not profitable for you at the lab, and it's going to be a headache. The patient's going to get sick of wearing the trays. You're going to end up with a bunch of new scans and new treatment plans. So we're looking at mild to moderate tooth movement. Now, you can still take on some borderline comprehensive cases. Maybe one tooth is in crossbite, but we're not taking on bilateral crossbites or extraction cases. Some of your GPs might want to push the limits, and we can help kind of draw the line there. So if you send a case to us and we're like, oh, that shouldn't be treated with plastic, we'll put it on hold. You don't get billed for the case. And we just kind of tell the doctor, like, this is probably something a patient should wear bracket and wires for. So these are just the general kind of high-level overview of the types of cases that you're going to be looking for, which I would say are probably 70% of the cases that your GP is seeing. Another thing, sometimes we don't want to say no to the doctor, right? They send you a case and you're like, gosh, I really want to sell the case. But there's a whole bunch of headaches that come with that, right? If there's really severe crowding, what are the chances that a liner tray is going to actually fit on that patient? So you can do the treatment plan and you can manufacture it and you can pay for it, and then the patient goes to put it in and it doesn't seat because plastic has to get in all the crevices and it has to fit nice. So we just want to be very careful about what we take on. So case selection, I'm just going to kind of reiterate my point. Mild spacing, mild crowding, a midline discrepancy that is less than 2 millimeters. We're not trying to fix a Tom Cruise smile. We just want like basic alignment prior to veneers, right? Or opening a space for an implant. There's a lot of different reasons why you could use clear aligners that aren't just making the teeth pretty, right? What we're not treating is severe crowding, a full class 2 or class 3 bite, a bilateral crossbite. These are all things that require maybe expansion devices, elastics, bracket and wire. We just don't really want to go down that path. And you could do a hybrid approach. Doctor could do bracket and wire for 6 months to a year and then switch to clear aligners. We can do the digital bracket removal. So you can get the scan, we remove the brackets, we do the clear aligner plan, and so doctor can deliver clear aligner trays at the same time he takes off brackets. That's also a possibility. So your case selection, Jeff, you had alluded to a lot of these clear aligner companies are coming out with like simple packages. So Align came out with Invisalign Go, which is for GPs who are new to the clear aligner space and don't quite know what they're doing. And then all the direct to consumers, they're not taking on crazy complex cases, but they're still able to treat about 60% of the standard clear aligner cases that come into the GP's practice. So I want to encourage you guys, there are so many cases to go out there and get that you can afford to be a little bit picky as to what you take on. And in fact, I hear a lot of ortho labs that are successful with clear aligner offerings won't take anything over 10 trays, which is really limiting the types of cases that they're able to take on, and yet they're still very successful in their offering. So just some encouragement there that there's still plenty to choose from. You don't have to go jump off the deep end. So I learned this from a very smart man, Dr. Bruce McFarlane. He always says there's 3 P's to clear aligners that you need to think about. Is it possible? The answer might be yes. You could look at it and go, I could probably make it happen. Is it predictable? Because you could do a treatment plan in 3Shape Clear Aligner Studio, and sure, we can move the teeth to get to the end result, but is it actually going to translate in the patient's mouth? Because it's making scientific guesses as to how the patient's teeth are gonna move. How old is that patient? What kind of medications are they on? Are they gonna be compliant, right? So we have to think about all these things when we're doing a treatment plan. And most importantly, is it profitable? Because if I'm gonna take on a 150 stage case, patient's gonna get tired, I'm gonna have to do a bunch of treatment plans, doctor's gonna get frustrated with me, patient's gonna get frustrated, and that's kind of a big headache, and I don't necessarily know that I wanna take that on. So I would just say, think about those things. Is it possible? Is it predictable? And is it gonna be profitable? All right, so I said I was gonna demystify the 2 workflows a little bit, and I'm gonna do my best. I sometimes confuse myself doing this, but there's 2 platforms. There's the FullContour platform, and then there's 3Shape Communicate, which is called Treatment Review. They both lead to Argen Clear Aligner, so it doesn't matter which portal you choose, they both end up in the same result. So it's just 2 different ways to submit a case for a clear aligner design. And so you might be thinking, well, why would I choose one over the other, and what are the pros and what are the cons? So I'm just gonna briefly go through the FullContour platform. We do a lot more than just clear aligner design. Basically, if it's a dental product, we wanna be the world leaders in design services. So if you're gonna be submitting more than just clear aligners, then you might wanna just sign up for a FullContour account, and you can do crowns, implant planning, guided surgery, all of those things. But most importantly, we have a whole white labeled solution. So if you're gonna do white labeling with Argen, all of our doctor approval, like 3D viewers and everything, you can put your lab logo in there. The URLs are generic. They don't say FullContour anywhere on there. So it allows you to face your doctor and say, this is my product. And then we have like a patient URL. So the doctor can send the URL to his patient. They can evaluate the 3D viewer from home or from their cell phone, which is really great. And again, it has your lab logo in there. And then if you're a large scale customer, maybe you're doing 500 cases a month, we have API integrations to make the whole thing automated and seamless so you're not having to manually submit cases. On the other side, you have treatment review. So if you've got trios doctors, they scan and they can send a treatment review straight from their trios, which is really, really convenient. If you have a bunch of maybe iTero or MeditScan doctors, they can still enter this workflow by going to Communicate. They create a case on there, they submit it to you at the lab, and then you can upload their scan to the case. So it makes it very simple, just a different entry point. With that, it's a doctor-facing portal. So with the FullContour portal, you can't tell the doctor, hey doctor, go to FullContour.com and check on your case. It's not possible. With treatment review, it is. They can go to Communicate, they can see all of their cases, they can click on a patient, they can see what's going on. So they have a little bit more visibility, but it can't be white labeled. So they would see FullContour is involved in the design process. They do have automatic emails to your doctors, which is nice. So whenever we upload a case and it's ready for review, they're gonna get an email notification saying your case is ready to review. That's pretty convenient. So you at the lab don't have to be like, hey doc, did you check your case yet? It's just automatic. And then again, it's just a seamless workflow for trios doctors. So you gotta kind of evaluate, okay, do I want a white label product? Does it matter to me if my doctor knows about FullContour? Some people like to keep us in the background and we're okay with that. So it's just good to be aware of, you can hide us in the FullContour workflow, you can't hide us in the treatment review portal. Did I demystify it a little bit better? There's like 2 different entry points, okay. All right, so what the workflow is, you gather the scans. Sorry guys, I'm gonna take a drink of water here. You gather the scans, the photos, the prescription form, put it in a zip file, drag and drop it onto the portal, put in like the patient name and if you want a full arch treatment plan or just anterior treatment plan. And then we're gonna do, yeah.
Can you explain the prescription form?
Yeah, so depending on what portal you're on, treatment review has like an RX form embedded into the workflow. So your doctor actually has to like go on and fill it out before the case ever comes to you at the laboratory, which I think is pretty convenient. In the FullContour workflow, we don't have like an embedded, again, we don't have a doctor-facing portal for your doctors. So we do have a generic PDF RX that we'll give you. It doesn't say FullContour anywhere on there. And your doctor just needs to fill out that prescription form for every single case. And they give that to you with the patient photos and the scans. Digitally, yeah, yeah. Please don't handwrite because then it's chicken scratch and it's a hot mess to read. So yeah, you put everything in. Thank you. You put everything into a zip file. Submit that for design, and then we give you like the full 3D viewer, the movement report, all of that with the FullContour platform. And I don't know if it's the next slide. Yeah, here we go. It'll play a video here while I'm talking. So you can play with the 3D viewer. You can generate so you just click actions, generate URL, and you can copy that URL, email your doctor. When they click on that URL, it's, again, your lab logo, the 3D viewer, the movement report, and it allows them to evaluate the whole treatment plan, and then they can either click approve and manufacture, at which point it goes directly to Argen, or they can click redesign. Like I said, those redesigns are very common with clear aligners because they want to make changes to whatever the setup was. So if they click redesign, it comes, oh yeah.
Does the doctor make the changes?
No. He has to do written instructions. So there is IP around the doctor's ability to manipulate a 3D model. That IP is expiring the end of this year, which is exciting for all of the clear aligner players. But for today, he has to put written instructions and it comes back to our design team. Yep. So this kind of just shows, like, it shows the IPR, the attachments, how much tooth movement there's going to be for the entirety of the case, and then also every movement per aligner stage. So they really get a full understanding of their treatment plan and what they're accepting. The doctor has to sign off on the case because then you at the lab aren't liable for the treatment, right? If something goes wrong and the patient sues the doctor, you're safe because the doctor's the one who approved the case. So this step is very, very vital. So that's the FullContour portal. These are just the doctor approval app and the patient app if you were to view it from a cell phone. So again, it can be mobile friendly. I would say for the doctors, it's not really a great experience on mobile because you're looking at a lot of numbers and IPR. It's possible if they're on vacation and they wanted to approve a case, they can. But I would say a desktop is probably a better experience for them. Now, treatment review, the workflow is very similar, same steps. So you need a scan, you need patient photos, you need an RX, but those are all kind of built into the treatment review communicate portal. So doctor scans on the trios, clicks send to Bob's dental lab. I don't know if there's a Bob in here, but it's coming to your lab. And then he has to go on to communicate and fill out the prescription form, some patient information like date of birth, things like that, upload any photos that they have, and then they click submit. As soon as they click submit, you at the lab get notified that you have a new case. You have to review everything over, and as soon as you accept the case is immediately sent to FullContour for design. We do our thing, and then this is the treatment review portal. So I actually have a video. I should have, I guess, been playing that while I was talking through it. It's fine. So this just kind of goes through, like, the doctor's filling out the prescription form, and they can see all the scans on your left-hand side. They can also kind of scroll through the photos and see everything that they've attached. I do want to mention too, if you guys are not looking to outsource to FullContour, maybe you want to do design in your own laboratory, treatment review is available for any laboratory to do clear aligners with their doctor. So this is something that you can sign up if you're going to have in-house technicians. It enables you a portal to communicate with your doctors and show your treatment plans. So that way you're not like making videos and emailing them. It's a very seamless workflow. So again, just still filling out the RX, putting in some notes. I already talked through all this, so we're just gonna wait a second. Again, when they push the submit button in the bottom right-hand corner, that's when you at the lab get notified. And we ask you to review all this stuff just to make sure like the scans are good, they put the photos, there's clear instructions on the RX. And you're also, again, evaluating, does this case qualify for a case that I wanna take on? Is it gonna be possible, predictable, and profitable? Okay, so that's the 3D viewer for the treatment review on the left and then the movement report on the right. What I like about treatment review is as you're sliding through, you can see the numbers on the right changing, so you can actually see the movements per stage at the same time as the 3D viewer is moving, which is really nice. And then there's like a little print button in the upper right-hand corner, so that's how you can save the report and print it, deliver it with the aligners, or the doctor can save it for his records. So that's treatment review. So again, 2 different entry points, but they all lead to Argen Clear Aligners. I know you kind of touched on this a little bit on the retainer stuff, but I do want to emphasize to you guys that retainers are booming here in the US. It costs about $600 to get 3 sets from Invisalign. It's expensive. So a lab's like, well, it can come in really nice packaging from Argen, which the patients love, the doctors love, and you submit it through the FullContour portal. So you can submit a model. Argen will do the retainers, ship them right to you. You can order up to 10 sets per case. After a clear aligner treatment is finished, the patient does need to wear the retainers every single night for about 3 to 6 months while the teeth kind of settle into place. And then after that, they should wear it. Oh, I'm sorry. They have to wear the retainer 24/7 for the first 3 months, and then after that, they just wear it at night. So retainers are very profitable because the design fee is very low, your cost from Argen is very low, but you can go sell them for a significant amount of money. So a lot of places are doing like a subscription model. So you charge the patient or the doctor a flat fee every month, and you do a replacement retainer every 6 months or whatever it is. So you can order, we have full arch treatment, which means removing molars, or you can do anterior, which is second bicuspid to second bicuspid. So whatever the doctor wants to do. I will say that you're gonna get a better end result with full arch, because even if we're not moving molars, sometimes when you move anterior teeth, there's just relative movement in the posteriors, and you don't want to cause like a posterior open bite. So we just recommend always doing full arch. However, a lot of doctors are just wanting to fix maybe 3 to 3, so the patient has a nice smile when they're in Zoom meetings, whatever it may be. You have full control over what you're ordering from us. There is a price difference when you're ordering full arch. It takes us longer to do those cases. They're a little bit more complex. And then we do offer like splints, night guards, and retainers. So I think that's it. You know what? Sorry, one more thing. Sorry, I'm rambling here. We have what's called a movement philosophy. Do any of you guys in here do clear aligners today? Show of hands. No? You do? Awesome. So you're aware, there's a lot of different ways to move teeth. And so we have what's called the FullContour movement philosophy. We established it 4 years ago with 3 different key opinion leaders kind of spread out all over the globe. So it refers to how fast you move the teeth per tray, how much you move for the entire case, and then what sequence you move the teeth. So we have a tried and true movement philosophy that follows really the standard of orthodontic care. It's the velocity at which we move teeth is basically what every other company out there is doing. So my point in saying that is you're gonna get a very predictable treatment plan that's not gonna cause pain to the patient. You're not gonna have teeth falling out. You're not gonna get inconsistent results where one treatment plan looked like this and the next one was totally different. It's very consistent. So you can just rely on our expertise to move the teeth on your cases. You can feel confident that whatever you're delivering to the doctor, he's not gonna be like, what the heck were you thinking? It's very, very conservative, I would say. So we wanna make sure we set you up for success so that you don't have a bunch of mid-course corrections or refinements at the end, so that you can get to the end point and have a happy doctor and a happy patient. So I will be in the 3Shape booth for the rest of the weekend if you guys wanna come by and talk to me. Thank you for listening to me ramble, and I'll pass it over to Michael.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. So you got a chance to learn a little about how we do clear aligners, how to design them. Now, hopefully I can help you try to think about how you can sell these, how you can approach your doctors. And at the end, I'm going to share with you some best practices that a lot of our customers are doing on pricing models. So it may give you some different ideas as you create your own pricing models that are going to work best for you and your lab and your process. So, oh, that's what I just talked about. So let's jump ahead. So the first thing is you have to think about your branding strategy, right? It's going to be very important. How do you want to approach the doctor? Do you want to go, as Jeff was saying, the Argen brand? Do you want to go in with a white label brand? So I think that part is going to be very critical, that you want to try to figure out how to do that, and that will help dictate your workflow and your process. And by the way, remember, this is being recorded and this will be posted on argen.com probably in a couple weeks if you want to go back and reference this, okay? So I mentioned about the 2 different treatment, where Michelle talked about the 2 different workflows. There's a trios workflow, and there's also you can do it with a non-trios. So I want to make sure you don't just have to do a trios workflow, okay? The FullContour Direct may be that process that you want to do where you are going to be white label, because in this particular case, remember, FullContour is hidden, they're behind the scenes. It may work better for you when you go that. So I'm just kind of reminding you, if you're going to go the white label, this might be the better approach for you to do that. In that scenario, or excuse me, in another scenario with the Argen brand. So with the Argen brand, there's some advantages by going the Argen brand because it's a big company. We have a lot of recognition out there, and it may help you establish yourself when you're going to the doctor, because Invisalign is a big company out there. We're not as big as Invisalign, but we are well known, and so this may help you establish your credibility that when you're approaching your doctors in this branding strategy. And of course, it's all made in the USA, and of course, and whatnot. So with the white label, it may give you different options. Okay, so the white label controls your brand. You can maybe have a better connection with the doctor. Will help you assist in developing and designing your logo. And in this particular scenario, there'll just be a smaller charge in a white label. Okay, so Argen brand, it's gonna be lower cost. The white label brand is gonna be just a little bit more cost, but may give you some more flexibility in what you're doing. So the approach. So what I found talking with labs is when they're approaching, first of all, doctors that they have great relationships with. They are not using this as a way to generate brand new business, because they want to walk into a doctor who already has a great relationship with that doctor and that trust, and it's very important for them. So they approach that doctor and they say, "Doctor, can I meet with you and talk to you about clear aligners? Because we have not been talking about clear aligners before." And so once they say it's okay, then they go ahead and set up that meeting. They also try to find out if that doctor has been using Invisalign, because if they are currently using Invisalign, then it may help cater the approach that you are going to use when you go towards that doctor, because there's things that you can pitch to them to get them to switch away from Invisalign. So those are kind of what we're seeing are some of the best practices that the labs are using as they approach their doctors. So then now you've got that first call set up, right? The doctor said it's okay, you have a great relationship with the doctor, they trust you, and they said, "Sure, come on in, let's talk about it." So once that happens, the labs have been going into the doctor, and they start to kind of first do an overview of the entire process. As you mentioned, Jeff and Michelle shared with you about the workflow, how we have to set up a Communicate account. We would provide you some tools. We've got some documents that you can use to provide to the doctor. But overall, the most important thing they've been doing is to sit down with the doctor and explain to them how the overall process works. And this helps kind of establish the validity of what's happening. Some labs just want to make it very clear to the doctor that you're just not taking the case, going back home, and you're just doing manual suck downs. And this is where they found this to be extremely helpful for them, where they're moving cases away from people that are really doing Invisalign. Then they go in and really start to focus in on the portal, especially if you're using the treatment review option, because you saw Michelle shared a lot of different functionalities and things that you can do, because Invisalign has a treatment-like portal, and if they're used to something like that, then they're going to want to probably have something like that with this particular solution, okay? So that's been really kind of where they go, and then we've been able to give samples. We can give you samples, and the labs like to walk in with the doctor, provide a sample kit, give them samples, clear aligners, and let them actually touch and feel and see everything. So again, it really starts to get them more connected, and it helps start to create kind of a buzz on wanting to get forward and to move forward. Now, once the doctor's like, "Great, Michael, let's go do it," then the labs have set up a second meeting with the doctor, usually kind of a lunch and learn. They try to get other people in the practice, not just the doctor, involved in this. Again, they bring samples out. All the people in the practice are touching and feeling the samples. Then they start discussing the material. As Jeff shared, the material is really important. It really helps establish the credibility and quality of our aligner. But then we start talking about why that material is important. We've got documents that you can hand to the doctor and hand to the practice that outlines the material, why it's important, why it's so strong, and why it does a good job. And then if they're doing treatment review, then for you to go in and start to demonstrate that right in front of the practice, right in front of the doctor. Kind of Michelle showed you that video, but you can do that yourself, or we can give you videos that can help you do that. But now you're showing everybody how easy it is to kind of go ahead and access everything. So it really becomes a nice way to do it. And where I found the big success is then getting the doctor at that time, this is what the labs have said, is get the doctor to sign up for that 3Shape Communicate account for clear aligners during this meeting. And the reason why that's important, because one, it doesn't obligate them to buy anything, but you're there with them. It's so easy to set up the account, because later when you're talking to the doctor, you want to get them rolling quickly. By doing it for them, with them, in the second call, just makes that downstream impact go so much easier and so much faster for everybody. The next, we find that it's really important to set expectations. If we don't set the right expectations, people will get frustrated, they won't be happy, and they'll be calling you a lot. So it's really important to start to set up those expectations. And so you need to know how you're going to be handling that scan, right? So is the doctor more traditional? We have found some labs where the doctors are traditional. They don't want to do an intraoral scan. So the lab said to the doctor, no problem. I'll take your impression, I'll scan it, or I'll pull up a model, I'll do it for you. Or is the doctor doing their own intraoral scans? No problem. I've seen one scenario where the lab created a situation kind of with a local scanning center, and what happened was they would send the patient to that local scanning center, and that scanning center would scan it for them and send it to the lab. So you try to think about which way it makes it very easy for your doctor to get you to that scan. And then, of course, talking about IPR and attachments, all the different things we can do. And then they really want to set the expectation on the time frame. So what I find is they're saying about 2 weeks. Michelle had shared with you that once the design process starts, it's 3 days, 72 hours. But then you may go back and forth a couple times because remember, they got to approve it. And usually after those 3 days, when the doctor gets the notification to approve it, they don't always approve it right away. So what they've been doing is kind of reaching out to the doctor saying, hey, doc, go in and approve your case. So usually it's kind of about a week in that process. But once that file is dropped in our system, we will make it in 5 business days, and it's out the door to your lab. So that's why we're finding that they're saying approximately 2 weeks for this entire process. So it's really important to set that expectation, okay? Another thing, they always want to set expectations of encouraging patient compliance, because obviously if there's not compliance, then we have a very hard time in the whole process, and they get very, very frustrated. And again, like Michelle was saying, they're setting expectations to start off with extended cases. Let's don't get too crazy too fast. But this is what the labs are doing a lot of business with us, are finding great success and why they're doing so well with it. So again, setting expectations. I said when the case is approved, how fast it's going to come in. The portal is going to notify you each step of the way. Try to text, email, call your doctor, remind them to stay on top of it. And there's another part of this process that's important, is that we have these patient user agreements that we're going to give to you, and we'll talk about that later if you are wanting to move forward with this. But it really is kind of an acceptance, kind of like a terms and conditions that's really important. That's not only going to protect you, but it's also going to protect the doctor. And so these things kind of need to be filled out. It's important to start to set up those expectations during this process, because otherwise it just becomes very difficult downstream. All right? So after that, we've got some things to help you out. We got a lot of marketing materials. So we got the marketing materials. We're going to do email blasts. We can set up a website, case stuffers, and we're developing some more videos. So here's an example of a lot of these different materials that makes it very easy for the patient, for the doctor. We've got samples over here for you, so you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make anything. Just makes it really simple. I mentioned about the demo kits. The demo kits we have that we can give you are 5 baggies are in there with 2 clear aligners each. We have a care kit and a patient guide, so it makes it easier for you to go ahead and sell them. This is what a kit looks like. We have mouse pads. We have, on this first one here, I should say on the left side, it says, why Argen? So let's see if I can get this little laser here. That does laser, doesn't work. So way up here on this top one on the left side is what we find is one of the most successful one-pagers that the labs like to hand to the doctor to give you an overview of everything. It just makes things just so much easier. But it's all in a nice little folder that you can hand and give to the doctor to get it rolling and go forward. White label, as we said before, it's the same thing. We just put your logo on that box, and we will go ahead and put your logo on the marketing materials. So there you go. You got the box, you got the marketing materials. You don't have to do anything. We're doing it for you, nice and simple. There's a patient brochure, the doctor and lab brochure, and customizable. So, all right, now let's talk about price. So what we charge is we charge a flat fee per aligner. Okay, 1 fee per aligner. I don't want to say the price right now. I'd like to share that with your sales rep can share it with you, or we can maybe talk offline. But it's a flat fee per aligner. That's it. Okay. If you go, then you go to FullContour. They have a design fee. They have 1 fee that doesn't include full arch. Is that correct? And if you go to full arch, it's a little more expensive. If I'm not mistaken, with FullContour, if there is a mid-course correction, right, that is not an additional cost. And if you have to do refinements, it's not an additional cost. Is that correct? For 1 fee refinement. Okay. Got it. One free refinement. So you pay a fee for design, one free refinement, or one mid-course correction. It's included in that. So that makes it very simple, okay? If you go white label, all we're going to do is charge you an extra $5 per box. So a flat fee per aligner. If you go white label, it's $5 per box. When you do retainers, it's the exact same fee as your clear aligner. Again, one fee per aligner, okay? All right, now, what are the labs doing? We're seeing all different kind of things out there. So what I find to be the most successful of labs is they're creating a 3-tier system as they're doing their pricing, okay? So the first tier, they're saying is up to 7 aligners, which of course, remember, includes the upper and the lower. So that's obviously a very, very simple case. They create a price for a tier 2, which is 8 to 15 aligners, upper and lower. Then they create a tier 3, which is 16 or plus aligners. But it's important to make sure you let them know that if they're going to be doing attachments and you need to have that template is considered one of those aligners, and that's how they get them into that tier 3. Okay, so an example, the case is 15 aligners and one attachment, it puts them in tier 3. Okay, so that's kind of how they're doing their pricing. I've just recently heard today about a very successful lab we do business with that just created 2 tiers and went 10 aligners and then 20 plus aligners. So you have to kind of figure out what works best for you, but that seems to be working best for a lot of them. One lab just said, we're just going to do a simple arch, just a simple plan, up to 7 aligners, $4.99. That's working great for them. They feel like they can make a lot of money, and they're focusing on just those really basic cases, okay? And then as you can do multiple retainer packages. Set a price with 1 set, 2 set, 3 sets, or 4 sets. I've noticed that some labs are really starting to produce or provide free ground shipping because they want to make it free shipping and make it easy for them. And this is really important too, is they want to make sure on these cases that they have a credit card on file and they're doing automatic payments for these things. They want to make sure that they can be flexible with them. All right, now this is important, and this is really unique. So when you figure out your cost, right, the design fee and the per aligner fee, what you'll hear sometimes out there is other companies will say, hey, it's unlimited replacements, unlimited refinements. There's no such thing as unlimited, those cost. So we charge per aligner, right? So what we've seen is some labs take different approaches. They're going to take the cost of the aligners, they're going to take the design fee, and then they're going to estimate maybe how many refinements they need to do, and they're going to inflate that price and make it kind of high and say to the doctor, Doc, here's my price, and it does include unlimited replacements. Because what's going to happen is we're charging you if the aligner is broken and we got to do another one, or if there's a correction, we have to charge you for the aligners. That's worked well for some labs. Other labs have said, we're not going to do that. The price is the price. So here's my fee. If something breaks, something has to be replaced, guess what? I'll get it for you, no problem, but here's my fee per aligner. So they kind of upcharge it a little bit if there's a refiner down the road. And they find that works better because it seems to be more competitive in the marketplace. But you have to figure out what's going to work best for you to see how your pricing handles and how it works for your scenarios. But this seems to be working great for our best practices of our labs. What could we do to help you guys? Is there anything in this process? You're all new, trying to think about clear aligners, trying to think about how to offer it to your doctors. How can we help you out?